Asia was a complex place at that time. The great Turkic dynasties that had ruled the north of China and Turkestan throughout history had come to an end. The Mongols in the east were experiencing problems of division. Small khanates or regional administrations were almost self-destructing due to the authority struggles they wanted to establish over each other. Unfortunately, neither the Turfan Uighurs, the Khanates, nor the Khwarezmshahs were able to represent all Turks among the Turkic dynasties in Central Asia. The Uighurs and the Kyrgyz, on the other hand, squandered the Hun and Gokturk heritage and left the historical homeland of the Turks to the Mongols. About the origin of the Mongols and the reason why they are called Mongols, the following sentences are mentioned in the famous epic of the Turks, the Genghis Khan epic. Oghuz begged them to convert to the true religion. He declared that if they accepted, he would give them Turkestan. In the meantime, Karahan's men were plundering, burning and destroying everywhere. But finally Genghis Khan defeated his rivals. He conquered areas from Talas and Sairam to Bukhara. He drove those who disbelieved in Allah to the east, to Karakorum. They settled on the banks of the Tolga River. They made this place their pastures and winter grounds. These people had to live in a very miserable condition, in hunger, poverty and sorrow in these eastern countries. Therefore, the Oghuz called them Mongol or Muval. Oghuz cursed them to wear dogskin clothes on their backs, not to eat anything other than hunting, and not to return to Turkestan again. After the Uighurs and the Kyrgyz lost their sovereignty in Central Asia, the Mongolian Beys filled the vacancies left by the Uighurs and the Kyrgyz. Hence they started to be called with the title of Khagan, the highest honor in the steppe. The Mongols, who lived with the Turks for hundreds of years, were inferior to the Turks in terms of numbers and culture, and therefore had to be influenced by the Turks willy-nilly, imitated the Turks in terms of both social structure and state organization after the 10th century. It was also not possible for them to follow a different path, because there were two societies and state organizations as the most perfect examples before them. One of them was China and the other was the Turks. Since adopting the Chinese system was against their creation, there was no point in structuring in the Chinese way, considering the geography, means of livelihood, and the peoples they dominated. As such, many things belonging to the Turks were reflected in Mongolian society. In 1160, the Jin dynasty, the ruler of northern China, allied with the Tatars and attacked the Mongols, and defeated the Mongols. The Mongol ruler Kublai Khan was killed. The Mongols dispersed in chaos for a while. One of the insignificant leaders among the miserable and confused Mongols, Yesuge Bahadur, the grandson of Kublai Khan, tried to strengthen the Mongols by forging alliances. According to the legend, one day Yesuge was hunting on the banks of the Onon River when he met a bride from the Merkit tribe who had just married. He fell in love with the woman named Hölin at first sight. Yesuge took his two brothers, kidnapped this bride by force and married her. Since Hölin had no other choice, she accepted Yesuge Bahadur as her new husband. According to Turkish customs and traditions, marriage was sacred and woman was honor. Therefore, looking at a married woman with the wrong eye was a capital offense under the law. However, Mongol customs and traditions did not have such a concept of honor, so a woman could be kidnapped even if she was married. Yesuge Bahadur had a son named Timuchin from this woman. This baby, who would later be named Genghis Khan, was born with a blood stain on his palm. Shaman soothsayers interpreted this stain to mean that he would shed a lot of blood in the future. When Timucin was 9 years old, his father Yesugey Bahadur married his son Timucin to Berte, the daughter of Ong Khan of Kyrgyz Khan, a Turkic tribe. But that year Yesugey Bahadur was killed by the Tatars. After his father's death, Timucin hid from the Tatars until he was 16. When he was 16, he went to the Kyrgyz Khan Ong Khan and reminded him that he had married his daughter Berta 7 years earlier. Ong Khan treated Timucin well and gave him his daughter in marriage, so Timucin became Ong Khan's son-in-law and a prominent figure in the Kyrgyz Khanate. But around the time of Timucin's marriage to Berta, the Merkit tribe launched a major attack on the Mongols. In this attack, Timucin saved his own life and his headquarters, but his newlywed wife Borte was kidnapped by the Merkits. Before Timucin's birth, his father Yesugey Bahadur had sworn brotherhood with Ong Khan, the leader of the Kyrgyz. Timucin went to his father-in-law Ong Khan to gain an ally. He told him what had happened to them. Ong Khan remembered that Timucin had once been helped by his father. He took Timucin under his protection. He welcomed him very well and called him his son, promising to reunite the disintegrating Mongol nation. Ong Khan told Timucin to visit Kamuka, the chief of the Uighur tribe, and get their support. So Timucin went to Kamuka with his brothers and explained the situation. Kamuka was outraged at what had been done to Timucin, as if it were his own honor, and he affirmed that he would obey Ong Khan's decree, saying, "My heart ached when your bed was empty, and my lungs burned when half of your chest was torn open. Let us avenge ourselves and destroy the Merkits. Let us take our revenge and crush the Merkits. Let's bring back our Lady Berta. Let's enter through their tent chimney and knock down their poles, kill their women and children. Let's destroy their tent and burn it to the ground." These words meant eradicating the Merkits and wiping them out. Thus, Timucin, who had formed an alliance with the Kyrgyz and Uighurs, quickly began preparations to attack the Merkit tribe. Kamuka had arrived at the assembly area with his army 3 days earlier. When the Kyrgyz army under Ong Khan arrived, the three armies set out to attack the Merkit tribe. They organized a night raid on the Merkit tents. They showed no mercy to anyone they captured, and most of the Merkit were put to the sword that night. As a result of this raid, the Merkit tribes broke down, scattered, and fled along the Selengja River. With this raid, Timucin also saved his wife Berta. The Merkit people paid a heavy price for Borte's kidnapping. More than 300 Merkits were killed. Women and children were captured. This victory brought Timucin great fame and prestige. In the following years, Timucin united the Mongol tribes under a single roof and was given the title of Kagan by the decision of the Kurultai. During this period, the Tatars were attacking and plundering the border regions of China and spreading fear. In 1198, the Jin dynasty in North China asked Timucin for help against the Tatars. Timucin hated the Tatars because of their enmity with his ancestors and because they had killed his father, Yesugey Bahadur. Taking advantage of this, he allied with Ong Khan, and together they marched against the Tatars. The leaders of the Tatars were killed, their lands and camps were plundered. At that time, Kamuka and Timucin fell out, because some of the commanders under Kamuka had left Kamuka and joined Timucin. This was very annoying for Kamuka. Tatars, Merkids, Naymans, Oirads, and Taytuts became close to Kamuka and formed an alliance and made Kamuka their leader in 2201 with the title of Gur Khan, the universal leader. Eventually, Kamuka gathered an army from these tribes and attacked Timucin. Timucin was overwhelmed by Kamuka's tactics. His horse was killed by an arrow, and then an arrow hit him in the neck. Timucin's brother Hatyun and 70 soldiers from Timucin's army were captured by Kamuka. Kamuka burned these 70 captives, including Timucin's brother, to death in boiling cauldrons. When Timucin regained his health, he did not react to the news of his brother's death. Within a year, he reorganized his army and grew stronger. He decided to take out his enemies one by one. First of all, he launched a great campaign against the Tatars, who had given the greatest support to Kamuka and had murdered his father in 1202. As a result of this campaign, Timucin captured all the Tatar lands. The members of the Tatar tribes were divided among the other tribes. In the same year, seeing that the Naymans were recovering, Timucin asked Ong Khan for support. Forming an alliance with the Karayites, he embarked on a great campaign against the Naymans, who were also presumably a Turkic tribe. Bayruk Khan, the Nayman ruler, was killed in this campaign. Kamuka was very disturbed by this rapid growth of Timucin. Of course, Ong Khan, the Khan of the Karayit tribe, who supported him, was not to be denied. The fact that Timucin had attracted a powerful Turkic tribe to his side was, of course, not something that could be ignored at that time. Kamuka went to Ong Khan, and together with Ong Khan's son, managed to incite him against Timucin. Learning of this, Timucin prepared his army for attacks from the Karayit lands. Just as Timucin expected, the news of the arrival of the Karayites with a large army reached him through spies. Ong Khan had placed Kamuka at the head of the army. Kamuka's army greatly outnumbered Timucin's army. While the majority of Kamuka's army was composed of Turks from the Karayit and Nayman tribes, Timucin's army was almost entirely composed of Mongols and a small number of Tatars. Against a Turkish army with hundreds of years of experience in warfare, the Mongol armies seemed to have little chance. Without waiting for a moment, Kamuka ordered the 500-man vanguard under his command to attack. Timucin, on the other hand, sent only 50 men against this 500-man vanguard. When the two sides began to clash in the square, Timucin ordered his archers to charge. All the soldiers in the square were destroyed by arrow shots. In this way, Timucin lost only 50 men from his own army and killed 500 from the enemy army. Angered by this, Kamuka ordered the entire army to attack. Timucin ordered the Mongol archers he had deployed in the east and west before the battle to attack. They were showered with arrows from the north, east and west. At this very moment, the weather suddenly turned dark and it started to rain heavily, accompanied by dark clouds. According to the belief in Gok Tengri, rain and thunder meant the anger of Tengri. Therefore, the Turks were very afraid of thunder. The Turkish soldiers under Kamuka's command were terrified and began to retreat. Since thunder did not have the same meaning in the beliefs of the Mongols as it did in the Turks, Timuçin ordered his army to attack the fleeing Turks. In this way, the Mongols won a great victory. Timuçin had learned a lot from this battle. He was especially impressed by the Turks' devotion to their religion and thought that he could use this to his advantage in the years to come. After the battle, Kamuka and Ong Khan fled to Kamuka's country. Ong Khan was killed on the way by an outpost post. The Mongols were greatly outnumbered by the Turks. Timuçin and his advisors knew very well that they could not succeed unless they took the Turks with them. For the Mongols, who had not achieved a serious political structure until then, it seemed the most consistent way to bring themselves closer to the Turks. As Timuçin's power increased, many prominent commanders came under Timuçin's command. The fact that especially powerful commanders and beys stood behind him increased his self-confidence, and one of them was the Turkic commander Subutai. By saying that he would gather his scattered men and protect you from all kinds of dangers, he gave fear to those who were hostile to Timuçin. For this reason, Subutai's support was extremely important in Timuçin's life. In order to win the Turks over to their side, they began to spread fabricated stories about Timuçin's life. In the anonymous book, The Secret History of the Mongols, almost all the stories about Timuçin, or Genghis Khan, were similar stories that had appeared centuries earlier in the epics and stories of the Turks. In this way, in the eyes of the Turks, Timuçin had become a leader in accordance with the concept of Kut, and even a leader personally appointed by Sky God. Therefore, his army, mostly composed of Turks, was ready to give their lives for him. Many of the Turkic tribes under Kamuka's command fled and became subject to Timuçin. When Timuçin entered the Kyrgyz country and subjugated the Turkic tribes there, he had a large army of Turks. On the other hand, Kamuka gathered an army from Nayman and Merkit tribes and attacked Timuçin again. Timuçin emerged victorious from this battle and captured Kamuka. He wanted to forgive Kamuka and bring him to his side, but when Kamuka refused and asked to be killed without spilling his blood, Timuçin accepted his offer and had all his bones broken and killed him in that way. Thus, the elimination of Ong Khan and Kamuka and Timuçin's unification of the Merkits, Naymans, Kyrgyz, Tatars, and other small tribes under his leadership made him the sole power in the Central Asian steppes. In the spring of 2206, he convened a great assembly near the Ono River, gathering all the tribes that had been united to him. By uniting all the nomadic communities, Timuçin had created a single nation of mostly Turks, which he called his own nation, the Mongol nation. He was now the absolute master of the Mongols under the name Genghis Khan.